Yo, what's up, guys? It's Nick here from Meet the Taco Plebs, and today we got the 10th episode coming at you with Denver Bitcoin. Denver is a super chill dude. I've been wanting to have him on the show for a while now. I've been following him for, I don't know when I first started following him, but it's been a while, and I thoroughly enjoy the content he puts out on Twitter. And I was in Al's Dirtbag Friday the other night. I was just doing some stuff around the house, but I wanted to hear some Bitcoin talk. Joined the party, and he was spitting some good shit, so decided I got to get him on here. So yeah, Denver, what's up, man? How's it going?
Yeah, what an introduction, man. I'm glad to sit down and talk with you. It's, what else is there to do on a beautiful day like today?
Yeah. So, what's your rabbit hole story? How'd you get into Bitcoin?
My rabbit hole story's maybe a little different than most. Some parts certainly the same. I have a really buddy. I consider him, family. I consider him a brother. And 2014, 2015, I drove him from Telluride, Colorado to Denver so he could catch a flight. And he showed me Bitcoin the entire ride, right? And because I wanted him to, I had asked him, what is this? And he was really involved in it. He had, he's an OG that's somewhat unknown. And, I asked him a lot of questions, but one thing that I still didn't understand was how it was produced. And, I just, much like a lot of other people, I just kind of, just let it be and didn't go investigate further to find an opinion one way or the other, just kind of moved on with my life. And it wasn't until 2018, like January time, that I even started looking back into it. So that kind of time in between, absolutely no, knowledge of Bitcoin, nothing in between when I first heard about it. And then when I was working in the oil and gas industry, early January, 2018, I needed to sell a upstream software product. So oil and gas companies have a lot of regulatory scrutiny that they need to deal with. And they also have partner scrutiny that they need to deal with. And I was working for a company as the director of sales and marketing to sell this software product that helps capture that daily data and report it to partners, report it to the state and federal government, every month to let them know volumes. And in the process of, trying to learn what the software did that I was trying to sell, because I had no oil and gas experience, I decided I needed to really, inundate myself in the oil and gas industry. And I had a couple of great bosses at the company I was working for that, were happy to invest in me. And they sent me to, I think I went to 8 oil and gas conventions in about 8 months. And, they sent me to places to learn about how pumpers actually spend their day, what kind of data is important. So I got to learn about valves and commingling and, all the gathering systems. And one of the things I learned was flared gas, this problem of flared gas in upstream oil, which is, a massive problem. And at that time, there was all the articles. Remember, this is early 2018. There's all these articles coming out about how Bitcoin has popped, the mining death spiral, the bubble's over. And I think Bitcoin was down to maybe $8,000 at that time. So I was kind of curious to know how the scammed people. So while I was working in the oil and gas industry, I just kind of got this itch to go learn about how did people get scammed with this Bitcoin thing. I remember my friend telling me about it, and I started looking into it, and I needed to figure out how it was produced. So I started looking into mining. And, I don't know how long it took, but at some point I realized that there was this harmonious relationship between the upstream oil production industry and Bitcoin mining, because there's a massive amount of waste energy in upstream oil, and Bitcoin mining can be modularized and it could be economic. So I started looking into, hey, can I mine Bitcoin off flared gas? And from there, man, I haven't looked back.
That's awesome. Can you go into a little bit more detail about your mining operation today? I mean, don't dox yourself, but can you tell us how? Can you just go into a little bit more detail about the mining?
Well, so that's a good question, because I had this idea, and I think it's important. I mentioned, when I came to this conclusion that I think stranded or waste gas could be monetized, via Bitcoin mining, I remember mentioning it to my bosses, and I remember vividly them laughing in my face, right? So I had, from the get-go, I had a lot of forces against me, if you will, and I needed to try to figure out, how do I get exposed to this? Like, how do I find somebody that I can, figure out how to set this up? And I needed to understand power generation. I needed to understand what kind of generators, gensets are used for natural gas and that are familiar to the oil getting gas site. So I started just kind of this massive exploration effort, and I was, I was getting step by step. I was understanding more the picture, and I was getting more bullish and more excited. And I was looking around on the internet for somebody that was doing this, somebody flaring or mining Bitcoin off flared gas, and I couldn't find anyone initially. Like I just couldn't find any articles. I couldn't find people talking about it. And then I put some Google alerts up about flared gas and mining, and I had gotten an alert that when I was looking at the screen, somewhere on the screen, upstream data, the term upstream data was there. And when I started looking, I searched upstream data, found Steve Barber. I was like, holy crap, there's another human being on this planet that has this thought. This is amazing. So I sent him an email. I think this was, maybe June or something of 2018. And I'm a total fanboy of Stephen Barber. I think what he's doing is one of the most incredible, emerging services, I guess, in the oil and gas industry. I think it's remarkable, just at its face, but it's truly remarkable because he's solving massive problems for people. And so anyway, I shot him a cold email like, hey, I think what you're doing is the future. I work in oil and gas. I've been, thinking about this as well. It looks like you've been thinking about it for longer and maybe a little bit harder than I have. Do you want to hop on a phone call maybe? And he accepted. And so from there, I think we had like a 20-minute call scheduled, and we talked for a couple hours. And I ended up, asking him, hey, could you build me an engine that does this and has this power? And he's like, well, yeah, that's essentially what we do. We modularize these 50 kilowatt engines or these 75 kilowatt engines. And, he was still at an exploratory-ish phase where he was, thinking about, he was designing, I think, his current hash hut that he's talked about. And I just kept bugging him and kept getting through the details. And when I ran the numbers, I realized it was, I could purchase these things from Steve and run Bitcoin. And I think we're going to be profitable. So that's when I took the step to raise capital.
That's really awesome. I've been hearing mining a lot more over the past year or so. When I first got into Bitcoin, I wasn't that interested in it. Like, I always thought it was a cool idea, but I could never mine. Like, I didn't have any good equipment for it, and that actually led to my username, Nick Can't Mine. But
it's a great name. I mean, yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, I've been talking about mining a little bit more. I'm not an expert on it in any case, but I've been talking about it with Nico, Bitvolt. I've been paying attention to I remember Barber tweeting that a city was something to do with the city, like paying them or giving them a bunch of free mining stuff, or I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was super bullish, and I was waiting to say that, and then you brought Steve Barber up, so it's pretty cool that you know him.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I just talked with Steven, and like we did. I mean, there was a lot of conversation that happened over time, and I actually ended up flying up to Canada, and I met him, and I went on site, and I looked at a current operation, and I needed to meet him because it's like you don't know if people are anything you want to get into business with unless you kind of meet them. And I couldn't speak higher of the guy. He's got an incredible mind, especially when it comes to engineering, and he's just so immune to bullshit. It's fantastic. He's it's just water off a duck. He's I'd say he's really self-disciplined and somebody that was really great to work with, really helped me understand what I was trying to understand. And we bounce a lot of ideas off of each other, right? He has a lot more oil and gas knowledge than anything I'll probably ever accumulate. But yeah, I mean, it's and you got to remember too, this was, the price of Bitcoin was just falling. And bringing up mining Bitcoin to solve the stranded gas problem in the world, this problem that's existed for, since they first drilled oil. And nobody's been able to really economically solve it, even though many people have come and gone and failed. It's, it's like you walk up to an oil and gas operator and you say, hey, I think I can solve your waste gas issue. And they just laugh because they've heard that story before. But this is legitimately a solution. This is conservation, altruistic conservation.
Bullish right? on mining.
That's what made me so bullish on Bitcoin. I mean, it's to the point where literally if Bitcoin was good for nothing else, it would still be worth $1 trillion because this problem is that big. Right? But it's also great for a lot of other things. It has a lot more utility than just this, decentralized conservation of wasted and stranded energy, which also displaces a lot of energy and saves the operator. So, there's this, once I fully understood that picture, I knew some things for certain, and I believe them to this day for certain, that oil and gas operators, oil and gas companies will be the biggest Bitcoin miners, I'd say, within the next 5 years. I think that's just a fact, unless utility companies somehow get involved, and then I mean, it'll just be a close race. But upstream oil and gas, there's 1 billion cubic feet of natural gas that's wasted every day just in the United States, right? 1 million MCF, and a huge portion of it could be burned on site, doesn't need to be treated. It's not sour gas. It could be burned on site and right now economically brought to market via Bitcoin mining. Now, it's capital intensive to enter that market, but these oil and gas companies play 50-year games. So it's something they're going to do.
Yeah.
And they're doing it.
So it seems like you've learned a lot about Bitcoin mining. You've learned a lot about the oil and gas industry. And I'm just wondering, how has Bitcoin changed your life personally?
I mean, I think a lot like in the same way other people speak about, the way I view my time is probably the most evident change, right? The value I place on my own time. Before I was one of the guys that I couldn't stand not being productive in a day, make sure that I have a job, even if I absolutely hate it, and make sure to, work hard at it, even if I absolutely hate the people I'm working for and I disagree with them. And
it's the right attitude to have.
Right. Well, I think so. But with Bitcoin, I start thinking more in the other direction of, like, what's my peace of mind worth to me? What's, how much of a miserable experience do I want to put myself through for the concept of a greater reward because of a job well done or whatever? Or do I want to go find something I'm passionate about and maybe fail? Right. And that change has been kind of severe where now, I'm like currently, I'm constantly looking for opportunities. I think I have to find some work in helping oil and gas companies conserve natural gas. And so it's something I'm always looking to go get into, because I'll just always be waiting and wondering why I haven't yet. And I'll be miserable because I'm not doing what I'm passionate about. Right. So I'll say that it has definitely changed what drives me and what I want in life. What I want in life is, is to have something that I'm passionate about to do that helps people and creates value. I mean, that's enough.
That's awesome to hear. When I found Bitcoin my senior year of high school, and I was kind of going through like a similar thought. And I remember like I would always hear people say like, it was something along the lines of like, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, or like you don't want to get a job where you absolutely hate it. And then, when you're 30, 40, 50, etc., like you're just slaving away till the weekend, and like the weekend's all you got until Monday comes around again and you're screwed. So I really applaud you for taking the risk to go get a career and a job that actually will make you happy, because a lot of people let fear and rejection completely rule them in this area of their life, and they just live an unhappy life because they work a shit job because they're too scared to go get what they want.
Well, right. I mean, and of course there's a line. I mean, if you're starving, like you might want to, you might want to do a job you don't like and get some food, bro.
Hmm.
But if you're not, then, then that decision is different. But, I mean, that's really what happened with me when I was learning about Bitcoin. Plus I became so bullish on this concept because I was seeing it happen, right? I was watching it be an economic solution to this massive problem. And I mean, that's when I quit my job at the oil and gas company, and I went and took another job that I didn't like all that much, but I had a little bit more, maybe passion for, in terms of who I was working for. And it was only because they were going to pay me more money and I needed to raise capital to do the thing I actually wanted to do. So I spent, a few months making a good salary just in order to be able to fund monetizing stranded gas. So it was, it was a means to that end, but through that, I realized that, yeah, you have to do that every day. Otherwise this life thing just becomes unbearable.
Hmm.
Right. And you're just getting kicked in the teeth the whole way, whether it's the state or whoever. So, that's my stance. I'd rather wait and find something that I have, that incredible passion for than just work because it's there.
Yeah, I get that. So I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but what is the most amazing thing about Bitcoin to you and why?
Oh, I just think the most amazing thing is immutable, right? And it can't be confiscated. That's something that's insane to me, right? The information security of private keys can literally prevent that information from being known by anybody but you, no matter how hard they try. I mean, they could try to guess it. It would be so costly, and it would take, millions of lifetimes to guess the private key based upon a public key. But that aspect, cryptography is amazing that way. It's the creation, or at least the discovery of digital scarcity. That's something everybody can wrap their head around because they understand that, trying to guess a combination. Well, what if the combination has this many possibilities? How long would it take somebody to guess it? And that math isn't too hard, but I can't get over that fact.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I can. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I'm very happy with the Bitcoin security. The network has never been hacked once since January 3rd, 2009, and that's incredibly impressive considering how talented some hackers are, how powerful some computers are. Yeah, I mean, I have my full faith in the network. It works amazingly well, and there are so many different ways to protect your Bitcoin, whether it be, just like normal cold storage wallets like cold cards, Trezors, etc., or you can even do like multi-sig. Like if you were to tell me that you could put your money into an online wallet and no one could access it because you have a key, or something like a key in your home state, then you have one in, let's say, Germany, and then you have one in, let's say, New Zealand. Like, that's just insane to me to think about.
Yeah, information security. I mean, one cool thing about, referring to the hacking comment you made is not only is it just rigorously difficult and costly to try to hack Bitcoin, but hackers are disincentivized to, right? Even if you wanted to go on some exchange and put a big short position in right before you spend, whatever it is, $50 million an hour to try to either 51%, attack the network. The network is designed to be attacked. I mean, it's like, if it gets attacked, it's not over there. I mean, that's in the white paper. It has designs in place to fend that off. The counterbalancing aspects of Bitcoin are astounding to me, even to the point where, so you 51% attack, and then what can you do? You can double spend Bitcoin and accumulate a whole bunch for yourself. Well, the second that you did that, you just made the Bitcoin you just stole worthless because the network is now compromised. Right. So beyond that, there's just disincentives to attack it. It's not worth the reward. There's a lot better, certainly more profitable ways to go hack than Bitcoin. So it's like, even if I could, it's not worth it. I might as well go hack, US Bank or something.
Mm-hmm.
So like that aspect of it is great. It's again, it's part of the counterbalancing forces of Bitcoin, the incentive structure that is just so beautifully designed. It's so simple.
It reminds me of back when I first found Bitcoin, I saw an Andreas video, and I was trying to figure out, like, oh, what if someone hacks the network? Like, what happens? And Andreas explained it perfectly, and he was talking about how if someone were to 51% attack the network, all what they would be able to do is one double spend until they get kicked off the network.
Like good actors.
Yeah, the good actors reroute, around them, fix whatever needs to be fixed, and we're all good to go. And then the hacker just spent, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, and all they got to do was one double spend.
Well, exactly. I mean, again, it all comes down to the incentives, right? A hacker isn't incentivized to even try because it's well designed that way. It's very defensive. That's why hard money is fair. It's an honest statement because of its design.
And that gives me a lot of peace of mind, knowing that I can actually put my value into this system, and it's not just going to disappear overnight.
Yeah, it's not. That's what's cool is there's nowhere to disappear to, right? The network is enclosed like that. I mean, nobody actually really holds any Bitcoin ever. They have a locker on the network that they have a key to, and there's Bitcoin in it. Mm-hmm. But one aspect of how kind of natural gas or flare mining plays into this is every miner is incentivized to find the cheapest energy, right? And the cheapest energy is problematic energy. And over time, those incentives in a macroeconomic sense will play out, right? There will be an equilibrium found. Currently, I say we're far from some kind of an equilibrium in terms of there are way too many people mining on the grid. I think there's way too many debt-funded operations that have overhead. They certainly, didn't expect to take so long to pay back. They didn't expect the increase in network hash rate that we've seen without at least a correlating price appreciation that would then account for, their future revenues decreasing. I think there's going to be a lot of miners in pain. I just mathematically, I can't understand how guys that are paying 4 cents, a kilowatt hour are competing at $9,000, right? Maybe up at this price, they're better to turn it on, but I still I don't see it, especially considering I know how much wasted energy is out there. Now, that does take into account two things. One, the only people that, a person who's mining off of flared gas can't compete with would be somebody laundering money, right? Because if I'm, using mining Bitcoin to launder money, I don't care if I'm paying $1 to get 98 cents back. I'm still going to keep my miners on because I have a different purpose in mind, right? I have an ulterior motive to this economic behavior. But other than that, the cheapest energy is going to win over time, and the cheapest energy is controlled by oil and gas companies, at least in the United States. I mean, they have so much waste energy. It's hard to actually quantify, but it also makes Bitcoin very defensive because attacks on the power grid doesn't necessarily shut down Bitcoin miners, right? I mean, transactions are still getting processed. Blocks are getting found. Would block time go to like 2 hours? Probably, because there's not a lot of people that are mining off grid, but it adds that defensive layer to Bitcoin. And they're modularized and they're spread all over. I mean, it's not like there's one central warehouse that's got 20% of the hash rate in North America. These are going to be all over the place in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
What do you see for the future of mining in the United States? Do you think like big, let's say, companies or institutions open up mining farms? Do you see millionaires, purchase a large piece of land and get their own mining farm going on? Like what do you see in the future?
I see grid power being maybe a way to personally try to earn some Bitcoin without KYC, right? Anonymously for individuals who maybe want to buy one machine and just have it slowly trickle them their money back. And they're going to be on grid. But other than that, I just don't know how grid miners are going to last. There's a lot of risk factors to take into consideration when you have, engines combusting natural gas on an oil site. But there's also a lot of factors to take into consideration when your power source is merely just an agreement with some guy that owns a building in South Dakota that agreed to host your miners for you at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Because if Bitcoin runs, if it has a huge bull market, I mean, what's to stop that guy from calling you and saying, hey, the power cost just went up, right? I mean, contracts are, they're as good as nothing in terms of, he could just say, okay, well, I'll see you in court, rip up your contract, unplug your miners, and because Bitcoin's at $30,000, you'll be able to find a ton of people that are happy to pay 5 cents per kilowatt hour rather than the 4 you were paying because there's a bull market going on. So that's an added factor, right? And then regulatory risk. I mean, I don't want to put $10 million of miners in a warehouse. The government just wakes up one day and they're like, oh, this guy's, using too much energy, hurting the environment, shut down. Right now, I gotta go find a home for millions of dollars worth of infrastructure. That's huge. The oil and gas, when you're mining on flared gas, you're solving a problem. So the people that are providing the energy, that either the operator, whether they're the one mining or not, they don't want you to be down because you're solving their problem, right? They don't really care to, go find somebody else because there's so much natural gas. It's not like they're going to start charging a ton of money because other companies just will charge less. And like I said, there's enough natural gas just in the United States to power the Bitcoin network a couple times over. In the world, it's probably like 11 times over. So I think it's going to all go to waste energy, to stranded energy.
Nice. So we're getting into our last few questions here, but what is your best Bitcoin pitch? Do you tailor it to each individual specifically, or do you have one solid go-to?
Recently, it's the 22% of US dollars were created this year.
I love that.
They have one money supply. I said that in a gas station like 3 or 4 days ago. The lady had to press it was in a 7-Eleven. She had to press the buttons to get the dollars to come out of the safe because I was breaking 100. And when she said, she's like, hold on, I got to get them out of here. I was like, well, you got to go print some real quick. And she kind of laughed. And then I just followed it up with, yeah, it's crazy. 22% of all dollars in circulation were created this year since January 1. And dude, there was 2 older guys looking at chips and shit over in the aisle. And they were probably 55 to 70. And they pivoted and stared at me I could only see their eyes because everyone's wearing a freaking mask, right? I could only see their eyes, but the message was what the fuck did you just say? 22% of what? This what? They didn't say anything, but they were looking at me, and then I could see their wheels turning. I could see them thinking to themselves, shit, do I own any gold? There was horror almost in their face because nobody even really knows. Nobody pays attention. Everybody's too caught up in politics and Antifa and shit to even care that they're getting robbed.
Yeah, the lack of monetary education in the United States, it's pretty frightening. I always say that the fiat system absolutely cannot work if the majority of people knew how it worked.
No, the only way in which it can operate is as a facade, right? If the curtain was pulled back, people wouldn't stand for it, right? But 99% of people you walk up to on the street, if you say M1 money supply, they're gone. You lost them.
Yeah.
Right. It's not their fault. They're not idiots. It's just not discussed. It's just not something that is ever a, focused topic in any kind of schooling, unless you go to college and you have to take finance classes. And even then, it's or economic classes. Even then, you're going to get a little surface and not realize how much you're getting robbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it'll be a Keynesian economic lesson that tells you it's okay that you're getting robbed.
Oh yeah, they'll preach that you need inflation in society, and
You gotta have
money needs to be printed from a central government, and it's just all bullshit.
I mean, how else are you gonna, bawl like a sheep and get robbed if there's not inflation? I mean, that was something I think American Hodl retweeted somebody that was talking like debt. How if I loan you 10 Bitcoin so you can go buy a house and the price of Bitcoin goes up.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, so what you're arguing is that all debt should be free? And I mean, the point was, listen, if you borrow money and the value of what you borrowed goes up, that's the risk of taking on debt, right? I mean, you should really consider whether or not you're going to be able to, make a return on this loan before you take on that debt. Right now, we live in a world where it's like you're stupid to use your own money to do anything. I mean, that was the one thing I did is I needed to go to work in order to raise some capital for myself in order to start my company. But I didn't end up using my money. I ended up using my money as collateral to borrow because money's free, right? Now, of course, I'm borrowing more or less from myself from my own other company, but it's still like there's no reason to expend the capital. So everyone's incentivized to take on debt and spend as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an absolute joke.
Yeah. So we have passed the 30-minute mark, and I have just 2 more questions for you that go together.
Go ahead. Do I get to ask any questions, or is it just like it's a one-way street kind of deal?
Today it's going to be a one-way street kind of deal, unless you really want to ask me something. Right. But so, right. What is your price prediction for New Year's 2021 and the fourth halving?
When you say New Year's 2021, you mean January 1st, 2021?
Correct.
So like a couple months from now?
No, I mean,
December 31st.
December 31st, I meant.
I mean, I guess if I'm going to be honest with myself, what I've been saying to the people that are close to me is no way we're under $75,000. That's kind of what I've been, at least what's in my mind by the end of 2021. But I mean, I'm nobody, man. What do I know, right? It's like all I can think of is once people understand Bitcoin's utility, which is funny. Most times that's the immediate scoff is that Bitcoin has no utility. But once people really understand Bitcoin's utility and Bitcoin mining's utility, I mean, that's why guys like Michael Saylor will throw $500 million in. I mean, he didn't do that because he thinks, 17 cypherpunks somewhere are powering the network. I mean, the strength of the network is something I guarantee he took into consideration. I'm sure he's heard about mining off of waste energy. Those things matter when you're putting $500 million into something. And yeah, over 75 by 2021.
I like that. So what about at the time of the fourth halving?
At the time of the fourth halving.
So 2024.
I'm going to say under $75,000.
Really?
I'll just do an over or under on it. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Any reason why?
Well, I mean, I think even if we're sitting at $210,000 Bitcoin at some point, I mean, there's ebb and flows to this. It doesn't only just go up, but I think at one point I heard on a podcast, it was something like for every bullish day or every positive day in Bitcoin, there's something like 18 or 19 days of price decline. It's, this is something for those who have a stomach for that pain. And, for $200,000 of getting chopped in half, I can see a candle slide down below $75,000 again. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, especially, miners have to sell, maybe they'll acquire. I don't know. I think the volatility is going to melt faces and it's going to make it almost look like a scam because there's going to be, $10,000 swings in a few hours. And that just seems like nonsense to somebody that's a normal investor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like worse than a casino when your whole 30-year investment career, you've been just like your biggest daily loss you ever saw was, 7% or something.
Yeah. But yeah.
So I don't know. I think volatility only is going to get crazier. Plus, when there's volatility, exchanges win. And so I think it's in exchange's best interest to try to cause volatility.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they partake in that. If they trade against their own customers, I could see that happening. So yeah.
I like that answer. That's the lowest answer I've heard. I think a lot of other people go really, really bullish because they're really, really excited. But I actually like that answer a lot. So
well, if you think about 2017, I mean, we dipped way down before we hit the halving here in 2020, right? From our all-time high of 20 grand. So we halved it $9,000 or something.
So that's all the questions I have for you. I really appreciated having you on today. Is there any last words you want to say, and where can they find you?
Oh, I'm at Denver Bitcoin on Twitter. I guess my last, my send off would be, I'm nobody special. I'm just an average guy. I'm a plebe, right? I'm just like anybody else. I just happened to, I think, stumble into an environment where everything I was learning was pointing toward this connection between wasted gas and Bitcoin mining. And so, I kind of just never looked back once that happened. But if anybody wants to reach out or just even have a sounding board and has ideas or questions, I'm always open. So don't hesitate.
Yeah, definitely follow him on Twitter. His link will be in the description. So if you made it to the end of the video, drop a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week with a brand new guest. Peace.
I appreciate it, Nick. Thanks.